Hello there. My name is Karnak. I'm a cat from ancient Egypt. How are you? How are you? So I think Mujin knows he messed up. Okay, so for context, Mujin is one of the largest VTuber commentary people on YouTube at the moment. With a grand total of 100 million lifetime views on his channel. He got into VTuber drama about a year ago when talking about the Rero Ron incident, where Rero Ron was doing all sorts of things with her community. Let's just leave it at that. His VTuber drama videos typically end up getting upwards of 500,000 views or more. During the Cinder fiasco, he very famously published the piece "How a Legendary VTuber Got Exposed as a Psychopath: The Catastrophic Unmasking of Cinder." Now, curiously enough, upon Cinder's return, his new video is titled "A Deep Dive into a Cancelled VTuber's Unprecedented Response: The 1,000-Page Cinder Files." It's very interesting that all of a sudden the word psychopath is dropped, and Mujin is no longer. Mujin decided not to clickbait this one. He decided not to say Cinder's psychopathic VTuber returns. Cinder is back for blood. The redeadening. Very weird, isn't it? The reason I'm making this video is because I wanted to address what I perceive as Mujin's bias in this situation. Because I think he is biased towards a particular direction, and I think it hurts his content overall. The reason I got into the Cinder drama at all was because I thought it was improper that Cinder's employment dispute with Nanolis saw her getting dragged so harshly on the internet with claims of her mental instability reaching the headlines. Mujin, in particular, as far as I know, had the largest, widest reach video, and calling somebody a psychopath online, while it might be all fun and games, it's not very fun for the person getting called a psychopath. When considering the ethics and what you should do and shouldn't do when you're creating content, one of the things to take into consideration is the lasting impact of publication. What this means is that if I go out and I call somebody every bad word under the sun, let's say I give them a certain political affiliation with 1938 Germany, or if I give them, or if I say they're a murderer or even a psychopath, that could have lasting impacts on people's lives, far wider reaching than what you're originally intending, even if your title is meant to just be like eye-catching and enticing to the viewer. Journalism can do real damage to people's lives, and when you make content, it can do real damage to people's lives. And even though Mujin's content is generally very good in keeping it lighthearted, even comedy can be used to attack people, bring them down, bully them, and effectively ruin their relationships. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys the first minute of each of these Mujin videos, and this should be sufficient to demonstrate that Mujin has a bias in a particular direction. Keep in mind, my intent with reproducing this content is simply for good faith commentary and criticism. I'm not intending to be an in-market replacement for Mujin. So without further ado, this is Mujin's first video, published at the time of Cinder's cancellation, called "How a Legendary VTuber Got Exposed as a Psychopath: The Catastrophic Unmasking of Cinder."
Well guys, it took a while, but after 4 months, 2025 has officially had its first apocalyptic level VTuber drama that has caused an industry-wide disaster. This is about one of the biggest independent VTubers on the planet and how for years, while pretending to be her friend, tried to take away opportunities and suppress the success of an even bigger independent VTuber by the name of Bao. This all started when a very well-renowned artist within the VTuber community published this document titled "Terminating My Work with Cinder." This document is such a bombshell filled to the brim with proof that it's currently sitting at almost 3 million views, and it hasn't even been up for 24 hours. That artist wasn't the only one. There are multiple documents with a lot of proof published by multiple people, including Bao, who usually stays away from drama. And as time goes on, more and more people are coming out with their side of the story. You have to understand, this doesn't just involve Bao. This involves multiple very successful VTubers being backstabbed by that person. And that is barely scraping the surface here. Not to mention that her apology.
Okay, so that was the first minute of Mujin's video. Sped up a little bit because look, I've watched these videos a couple times. So as you can see from the first minute of how a legendary VTuber got exposed as a psychopath, we already have a basic understanding that, well, something really awful and terrible has happened, and it probably involves Cinder. In fact, he accurately summarized the accusation that Cinder was trying to take away the opportunities of Bao the Whale. And he also lent his voice to give credence to the fact that multiple VTubers had come out with their own accusations and their own Google Docs, all with the designed effect of ruining Cinder's career. Contrast the tone of the first minute that we've just heard of Mujin talking about the accusatory side of the Cinder drama, and now let's go into the defense side of the Cinder drama, where Mujin published a 5-hour video titled "A Deep Dive into a Cancelled VTuber's Unprecedented Response, the 1000-Page Cinder Files."
The Lord of the Rings trilogy was written by the author J.R.R. Tolkien. It is one of the best-selling books of all time, selling over 150 million copies. If you want to read the entire trilogy, then it's around 1,000 pages. And considering that it's one of, if not the best-written fantasy world ever created, then hey, it's actually a small price to pay. This means that for 1,000 pages, you could either choose to immerse yourself in one of the best-written fantasy worlds of all time, or read a 1,000-page Google Doc about VTuber drama. I wish I was kidding. 1,000 pages, all dedicated purely to VTuber drama. How do you even get here? What even got us to this point? Well, you know, it's only one of the biggest incidents in VTubing history. You see, Cinder was one of the biggest and most successful independent English-speaking VTubers in the world. Now look, some people will argue with me. She didn't have tens of thousands of concurrent viewers, and she didn't have 1 million followers, but her community was so ridiculously loyal and held so much influence that she truly was...
And that's the first minute of Mujin's defense video. So, I think it's fairly clear, I think it's fairly obvious to say that the tonal shift between these two videos is quite dramatic. And I think that, and while it seems that he was happy to throw the shade when it was going against the direction of Cinder, he seems to be a little bit more defensive and cagey when it comes to presenting Cinder's side of the story. I mean, he wasn't complaining about the length of the Google Docs, or he wasn't complaining that the fact that women were talking about things that were petty and irrelevant when Bao the Whale and Nanolis were talking about how Cinder had an employment agreement with Nanolis. However, all of a sudden, when Cinder comes out with a 1,000-page document to defend herself, all of a sudden, oh no, my job is very difficult, and you guys should read The Lord of the Rings. You shouldn't read the Cinder document. This is, you know, what VTuber drama is just a waste of time. Why should we look at VTuber drama? Now, I believe in the drama industry, this is what we call cope. Anyway, I'm not really here to make fun of Mujin. What I am here to do, though, is gently criticize Mujin, and to politely remind him that when you're a large content creator, and your videos reach millions and millions of people, that maybe it's better that you take a more measured response, or you take a more measured take, when considering people's lives and careers. Because remember, when you publish something online, you're not just talking to your small audience. You could be talking to the wider public, and that wider public could have their own thoughts and opinions about the things you publish. They could be influenced by the things that you publish specifically. Now, I'm not going to be silly and claim something like Mujin's video rose to the level of libel, or rose to the legal definition of slander, or anything like that. What I am going to say is that, at least colloquially, calling a woman a psychopath and participating in the destruction of her career is somewhat harmful. And if it is still possible in 2025 to appeal to someone's human empathy, it's not like a good thing to do to come in and give her a medical diagnosis. Now, I will give Mujin some credit. He didn't say the word evil psychopath. He didn't imply that Cinder was murdering anybody. But normally, when you apply the label psychopath to somebody, you should have some sort of set of facts to back up what you're saying. Otherwise, it might look like you're applying a label to somebody vindictively just to hurt them and to destroy their career. Now, admittedly, I didn't watch the entirety of Mujin's 5-hour response, to the Cinder drama, mostly because I've read the 1,000-page Cinder files. So I'm not too interested in going over it again. So that's why I'm just making a short little video this time, just to point out that I think Mujin's realized that he's made the mistake of jumping the gun a little bit in his publication and saying things that were maybe more harmful than what he was intending, which is a good thing. Like, if Mujin has realized that he's was a bit hyperbolic with his YouTube titling, then that's really positive direction. So I'm really happy for Mujin if that's the case. While skimming the video, I did see a couple of points that Mujin brought up that I sort of wanted to address in the Cinder defense video. So I'll just find them really quickly and I'll go over them now.
Barely 6 minutes later, Bao the Whale, one of the pioneers of independent English VTubing, and someone who is practically friends with everyone in this space, would also make a tweet saying, "I was very hurt by someone I thought was a friend," referring to Cinder and linking her own Google Doc. And worst of all,
it's very interesting that Mujin didn't pick up that there were only 6 minutes between the two Google Docs when he was making the attack video, because obviously when two large media figures drop docs at the same time, that's obviously a sign of collusion, which wasn't brought up in the Cinder as a psychopath video.
And seeing that I've already made a video on what happened back in April of 2025, I figured that it's my responsibility to make a video about this response, purely because I hate myself, but also because no one else would. And again,
To be fair, Mujin does take responsibility for his previous publications, which is a very good thing.
document. Most of it is supported by circumstantial evidence, but it should not be treated as solid fact. So just so you know, since I actually read the document, most of this speculation would be in the 8th section of the document, titled The Breakdown. There would also be some in Silvervale's section. Objectively speaking, when you say speculation with someone who has such a loyal audience like Cinder, the one thing that comes to mind is how dangerous that is. But anyway, we'll get to that later. The 5th point.
It's interesting that he knows now that speculation is really dangerous. It's very interesting that when there's a published document with speculation that Mujin doesn't like, that Mujin all of a sudden realizes that speculation is a dangerous thing. Almost like speculating to your audience of 500,000 people that Cinder is a psychopath might be a dangerous thing, Mujin?
So yeah, one hell of a thing to start things off, and already we have some pretty hefty accusations, with Cinder blaming Shylily, Nanolist, and Silvervale of going after her on purpose. Later in the document, you'll get to make up your own opinion.
It's almost like hefty accusations are all part of this drama. That everyone's doing hefty accusations in either direction.
Doing very good. This is something that I expressed in my first video. She could have taken a week break, come back with a better apology, and just resumed streaming like she always has. I mean, come on, who are we kidding here? Dr. Disrespect set this precedent. He messaged a minor, and look at his career. The reality is, unless a platform bans you, you could murder someone, but people will still watch when you stream. Here's the thing though, before her...
So Mujin brings up here that he wasn't happy with the original apology. And just because Cinder didn't do the dance revolution of specific actions that Mujin approves of, Mujin was asking, oh, but Cinder, why didn't you do the specific things I wanted you to do? I wanted you to just go away for a week and then come back. I didn't actually want you to go away for 5 months and gather evidence. No, because that might actually make me look bad, and it might disprove some of the speculation in my movie-long presentation about your life and about how you're a terrible person. Well, Cinder, all I did was make a 2-hour movie about how you're awful. Why did you go up and try and prove me wrong, Cinder? That's awful of how awful of you.
How much of a massive positive difference it would have done for her if she included this in the redacted section of her document. She'd then say, "I'd also like to repeat here that I do not condone the harassment of anyone and I never have. Please."
How could she include a screenshot that happened after the document in the document when the document is not meant to be edited?
Even content creators, for the most part, didn't bother reading the whole thing either. Very few did. I mean, seriously, would you rather read this or Lord of the Rings? And plus, it's not worth it. And even after you come up with your response, what is it really?
It's interesting that it's worth it to cancel Cinder, that everyone can make money canceling Cinder, but all of a sudden when it comes to defending Cinder, it's not worth it. All of a sudden when it comes to defending Cinder, oh no, you shouldn't do this. Oh no, listen, it's okay. Please don't defend Cinder. Look. I don't think you know the game, but it's called Ruin Cinder's Life. It's not called, oh, let's be fair to both sides.
Gonna do. The people who hate you will still hate you, and the people who love you will still love you. In the end, the squeeze is not worth the juice. But that's not to say that no one responded, and that's what leads us to Nano. In her Discord server, Nano would add everyone and say this: "Hello everyone. I feel like my closest community deserve a bit of information on recent happenings. First of all, I'm sorry for bringing all this mess to the community. Honestly, it's all in my hands for posting it because I felt it was the right thing to do. Mostly to show what's happening on the backstage of things. So like before we keep going, all right, this is clear. She posted this in a panic because the English is so ridiculously broken. As we already saw in her initial..."
It's interesting that he can realize that Nano is posting in a panic and posting all at once. But when it came to Cinder's original apology, Mujin wasn't quite as graceful when it came to referencing Cinder's initially written apology.
Note to client still hurts me, but it's something I'm enduring in respects to them and my own limits. So again, this was really rushed. She was clearly in a panic. There was broken English. It was all over the place. It didn't help her. And to the people that were siding with Cinder based on what was available in the document, this was proof that they were right. And so
It's almost like when there's a massive drama, people don't act entirely rationally, because what you're doing is you're reporting on them at a low point in their lives and a low point in their careers when they're rushed and panicked. And maybe it's very difficult to judge people in that situation.
And then the VTuber told me, actually, Aru, I think I'll go with Cinder, and then I'll come back and take you. So then that VTuber grabbed Cinder right in front of me, by the way, after Cinder and I were supposed to go in together, took Cinder to go do the thing, and then came back and took me to go do the thing. And it happened right in front of my fucking eyes. So yes, I felt like you didn't fucking like me. And that shit really fucking hurt my feelings, by the way.
all right, so there you have it. Some more context, something that we didn't even know about, something that Cinder failed to mention, and it really shows you just how nuanced all this is, right? How as soon as someone decides to speak out and give more information, everything all of a sudden starts to change. Is Cinder still in the right after what Aru said, or is...
It's really weird how when you hear two sides of a story, that the context of what things that's being said suddenly changes, isn't it? It's really weird how that extra context when you're dealing with a matter is important. It's really weird how you should actually listen to people who are being accused of crazy shit online. You should actually look at it and activate your neurons. And you should actually think about what's reasonable and rational. And you shouldn't jump down people's throats. And you shouldn't make a movie-length documentary about how they're a terrible person. Maybe you should make a movie-length documentary about someone being a terrible person before they've responded properly. Maybe you shouldn't take an apology that was written after 48 hours of her panicking as like the gospel, and you should pick that apart and completely destroy her.
Really, really awesome. I'm actually like this close to going into psychosis. Like that would be really, really awesome.
Maybe the next video should be titled Bow's the Psychopath.
Yeah, I'm genuinely like this close. Like you don't even have to like write a Google Doc, like make a scathing tweet about me, and prioritizing feeding them is a cause for, you know, a grudge against me. Or actually, you know, another thing too.
To be clear, Red apologized for this over 100 times. I don't know what you can do like after apologizing 100 times. Like there's nothing. there's no magical combination of words that will make this whole. So I mean, what do you want at this point?
Who is you know, being so obsessed with me that you buy a Twitch sub and stalk my Discord server and try to watch my mental breakdowns to my sub server. Apparently that's a cause for. I should have been nicer to that racist old Japanese lady that kicked me and all my friends out despite us having a reservation. Yeah, no, it's cool, awesome, you know.
Yes, I mean this part, all of this was included in the doc, and to highlight the fact that Red is a complete weirdo. Like Red knows that he was acting irrationally here, and he says it multiple times. He also said he was sorry and he regrets his decisions. Like there's nothing more to be said. You know, you can't bring up Red's confession and it's like, oh, see, Red confessed, he's a bad person. Yeah, he did, he's confessing. Well, what do you want? He's confessing. This is the confession part.
And yeah, by the way, I don't want your fucking money. Have a great life. Anyways, let's have a great stream today, guys. What do we think?
So yeah, this adds a lot of context to what Red had, and it's something I mentioned, you know, it could have been anything, and I'm sure she had her reasons, and now that she actually said...
Oh, it could have been anything. I'm sure she had her reasons. Oh, the context, guys. The context is important now.
Them, well, she made Red look even worse than he already was, and that's already a hard thing to do. One of her mods came from the Philippines all the way to TwitchCon just to meet up with Bao, and I mean, come on, man. Yeah, you gotta make some tough decisions sometimes. It doesn't mean she doesn't like her friends. And when it came to that one friend who had a problem with Bao over an altercation that happened at a restaurant, well, now we know it was a racist owner. Maybe the friend just didn't like the fact that Bao made a big deal out of it, but I doubt that justifies wanting to blacklist her. We also would get some...
It doesn't. And Red agrees with you. It doesn't, like, Red specifically in the document that you just read agrees with you.
Sort of a new detail at the end there with her saying, I don't want your money. This could mean anything, but it could indicate the fact that maybe Cinder or Red are trying to give her money for the damage they caused to her. But hey, don't worry, because this is all just speculation. I can't believe we made it to the end. In conclusion, I'd say this document took a lot of effort. Way too much effort. And in the end, I doubt it was worth all that effort. Cinder...
Why? Why did you think it was worth all the effort? I mean, earlier in the video you just went over the fact that Cinder made, you know, $10,000 to $40,000 off her return stream. And I'd say a large part of that return stream was the fact that she came back with all of the evidence and all of the receipts. Now, for me, I would say that $40,000 for coming back with a Lord of the Rings book deal and you know, countless hours of content generated is actually quite a good payoff on the 1,000-page Google Doc. But I guess your mileage may vary, because maybe it's not worth the effort, because this directly contradicts the movie-length video you made calling Cinder a psychopath.
Cinder could have come back with a 5-page document, laying out some of the things that bothered her, but also apologizing and wanting to move on, while saying,
okay, so this is again, Cinder didn't do the specific Dance Dance Revolution of like exactly how to get uncancelled in Mujin's professional PR opinion. Cinder made some missteps by defending herself publicly against your movie.
that Red is not working for me anymore, just like she did in the Discord server, and getting a manager that's well liked by the community who could set her straight. She would have been received by the wider VTuber community with open arms. I mean, it's been 5 months, come on. And most people would say, yeah, you deserve a second chance. What she ended up doing was different. She wrote 1,000 pages, something that's never been done before and might win the Guinness World Record for a Google Doc written for the purpose of online drama. And if anything, this document showed us more issues regarding both Cinder and Red. Cinder was a terrible friend, especially from
The document contained things that make Cinder and Redacted look bad, yes. That's because the document, because that's what the truth actually looks like. The truth actually looks like everybody's being a bit of a shithead. Everybody's being a little bit petty and a little bit immature and a little bit childish. That's what reality actually is.
2024 onwards. She admits this herself. We got to see the extent of how bad of a friend she actually was by neglecting her other friends like Bao and Numi. Red, on the other hand, turned out to be way worse than we could have ever imagined. The guy would create fan fictions in his head to justify hating people that were his wife's friends. It was a disaster. Objectively speaking, Red is radioactive and needs to be kept away from anything Cinder related if she wants her brand to survive. When it comes to Cinder, though,
I mean, I think Redacted is actually a marketing genius. So I think if look, I think Cinder and Redacted are in it for the long haul, and I don't think they need your relationship advice, Mujin. So
I don't think most people think that she's evil. She made mistakes, and yeah.
Excuse me, what does the word psychopath mean, Mujin?
Normally, I would have said she deserves a second chance. The one thing that was
Yeah. Oh, so are we going to give psychopathic Cinder a second chance after she tried to destroy Bao and personally undermine her? Is this second chance worthy, Mujin? Was your video covered in absolutely like graceful forgiveness?
Stop me from making this conclusion too quickly, though, is the fact that she included the speculation parts of this document. These sections are very dangerous, and even though she would claim that she's against harassment, they only cause further harassment, especially with
Speculation's bad now, by the way.
the community of zealots who would do anything to defend their queen. That's the reality. I don't know if it was her idea or Red's idea. Honestly, at this point, who cares? They wrote it together, but that's really the one thing that I personally cannot ignore. I have a problem with it. In any case, this document...
So now we have a problem with speculation because Cinder's the one speculating.
And the drama will die down. Cinder will keep streaming, but she will be alone in doing so. But that's okay, because maybe at the end of the day, that's exactly what the Pyropuffs want.
Who says Cinder will be alone?
They want her to give them her full attention, with no distractions such as friends. If you watch until the end, you're crazy. Now you genuinely, actually, right now have to get up and talk to a therapist, but I really appreciate you anyway. I wonder what you think about this mess, because the only thing I can think about is how I never, ever in my life want to see another Google Doc ever again. You understand? Anyway, if you want me to become a part owner of GamerSubs without writing a 1,000-page document, then go use my code, Mujin, for 10% off your total order. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going on vacation. I don't want to look at a single YouTube video, tweet, or document ever again, and I will see you in the next video whenever that is. I just contradicted myself, but hey, I love you. Mwah.
And today we have Mujin's video. So it might not seem like much, and it is obviously very confronting when you see opinions that differ to your own. But I think Mujin has had a bit of a growth arc over the Cinder drama. I did notice that Mujin has taken the word psychopath out of his vocabulary when referring to Cinder. And I think that's a good thing. So, if you want to watch Mujin's full breakdown, go watch Mujin's full breakdown. I'm sure that now that the entire runtime of Mujin covering Cinder drama is I think 5 hours for the defense video and 2 hours for the attack video, I think we have a full Lord of the Rings trilogy of Mujin content to watch if we want to. And I encourage people to do it. Okay, I encourage people to go watch Mujin, even if he disagrees with me. So overall, I think the main reason I wanted to make this video in the first place was not just because I may disagree with Mujin and his handling of the Cinder drama. but it's because I wanted to highlight and underscore the dangerous precedent of calling people, psychopaths, narcissists, abusers, etc., without the full facts behind you. You don't have a medical degree. You haven't sat down and talked to Cinder. You haven't decided, oh, can this person actually experience empathy or not? You don't know the full details of what's going on. And so it's very dangerous to call people out. And I think it is a little bit low. I think it is a little bit low. And Cinder deserves to get her punches in. When all of a sudden you're backtracking on, is speculation a good thing? Or, oh, actually context does add things to the conversation. So I hope that Mujin takes this as a lesson. I hope that his content improves because of it. And I hope that Mujin continues making fantastic VTuber videos. With that out of the way, my name's Karnak, I'm a cat on the internet, and until next time, just be nice to people. It's very easy. Ciao for now. Bye.